The kitchen of Lempereur was a chrome-plated hell. It was the only 3 Michelin star restaurant in the city, run by the legendary and notoriously cruel chef Julian Vantier. To the world, Vantier was an artist. To Leo, who had spent 3 years in the garde-manger section cutting onions until his fingers bled, Vantier was a thief of souls. Leo wasn't just a line cook. He was a culinary prodigy who had lost everything when his family's small bistro burned down. He had come to Vantier for mentorship. Instead, he found a prison. "You are nothing but a pair of hands, Leo," Vantier screamed, throwing a copper pan across the room. It clipped Leo's shoulder, but Leo didn't flinch. "You don't think. You don't create. You execute my vision. If I tell you to boil a rock, you ask me what temperature." The insult stung, but what hurt more was the theft. Every night, Leo would experiment in the dark kitchen after everyone had left. He created a sauce, a complex fermented honey and charred pine needle reduction that tasted like a forest in autumn. It was revolutionary. One night, Vantier walked in and tasted it. He didn't praise Leo. He didn't even look at him. He simply took the jar and walked away. The next week, Lempereur debuted a new signature dish, the Vantier Forest. It featured Leo's sauce. It won Vantier his 4th Michelin star. When the critics asked him how he came up with the idea, Vantier smiled for the cameras and said, "It came to me in a dream. Genius cannot be taught." Leo stood in the back, washing the very pans Vantier used to claim the glory. That was the night Leo decided that if Vantier wanted to play with fire, he was going to get burned. Leo didn't quit. He did something much more dangerous. He stayed. He became the perfect soldier. He worked 18-hour shifts, becoming Vantier's right hand. He learned every secret of Lempereur's supply chain, every ego-driven weakness Vantier had, and most importantly, the date of the Grand Review. Every 5 years, the Global Culinary Council sent a golden critic, an anonymous taster whose word could build or destroy an empire in a single bite. Vantier was terrified of this man. While Vantier was busy shouting at celebrities and filming TV shows, Leo was building his own shadow empire. Using the small inheritance from his family's insurance, he opened a pop-up in a hidden alleyway called the Hearth. He didn't use expensive truffles or gold leaf. He used the ingredients Vantier threw away: ugly vegetables, fermented rinds, and forgotten spices. Word spread like wildfire. The ghost chef was creating food that made people cry. Leo's plan was a slow reduction. He began to subtly alter Vantier's recipes. A gram too much salt here, a slightly different vinegar there. Nothing the average customer would notice. But to a trained palate, the soul of Lempereur was beginning to rot from the inside. Vantier, blinded by his own arrogance, didn't notice. He was too busy looking at himself in the mirror. The night of the Grand Review arrived. The air in Lempereur was thick with tension. In the center of the room sat a man in a plain gray suit, the golden critic. Vantier was frantic. "Leo, the signature dish, the forest. If it isn't perfect, I'll have your head." Leo looked at the sauce. He had prepared 2 versions. One was the masterpiece he had created. The other was a mirage. It looked identical, but it contained a rare, bitter herb that numbed the tongue to any other flavor for an hour. As Leo prepared the plate, Vantier pushed him aside. "Get away, boy. I will plate this. The critic needs to see the master's touch." Vantier meticulously arranged the dish, drizzling the mirage sauce over the venison. He marched into the dining room like a king, presenting the plate with a flourish. The critic took a bite. He chewed slowly. Then he stopped. He looked at Vantier with a look of profound disappointment. He took a sip of water, then another bite. He put his fork down and wiped his mouth. "Chef Vantier," the critic said, his voice echoing in the silent room. "This dish is dead. It is bitter, arrogant, and hollow. It tastes like a man who has forgotten why he started cooking. You haven't evolved. You've just become a louder version of your own shadow." The critic stood up and walked out. Vantier was dead in a single sentence. The fallout was instant. The news hit the digital headlines before the critic had even reached his car. Vantier retreated to his office, screaming and breaking plates. He looked for Leo to blame him, but Leo was already gone. 2 weeks later, the Global Culinary Council announced their new rankings. Vantier had lost all its stars, but a new name had appeared at the top of the list, a place no one had heard of, the Hearth. Vantier, broken and humiliated, drove to the hidden alleyway. He found a small, warm room filled with the smell of wood smoke and real honey. There, in the center of a bustling kitchen, was Leo. But he wasn't washing plates. He was leading a team of young chefs who were laughing and creating. Vantier walked up to the counter, his eyes red. "You sabotaged me. You put something in that sauce." Leo didn't stop plating a beautiful roasted carrot. He didn't even look up. "I didn't sabotage you, Julian. I just gave you exactly what you asked for. You told me I was just a pair of hands. So I gave you my hands, but I kept my heart. You served a dish without a soul because you never had one to begin with." Vantier looked at the menu. The signature dish was called the Phoenix. It was his forest recipe, but evolved into something so pure it made Vantier's eyes water just from the scent. "I can buy this place," Vantier hissed, a last gasp of ego. "I still have millions." Leo finally looked at him, his eyes cold and calm. "You can't buy taste, Julian. And you can't buy loyalty. Your staff. They're all working here now. Your investors. They're my partners. You didn't just lose your stars. You lost the kitchen." Leo handed a plate of simple bread and butter to Vantier. "Eat. It's on the house, since you've forgotten what real food tastes like." Vantier took a bite of the bread. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. And that was the cruelest revenge of all, to know that the boy he had treated like a dog was a god, and he was just a man with a loud voice and a cold stove. Leo turned back to his team. The fire in the hearth was bright. The kitchen was finally his. And for the first time in his life, the food didn't taste like bitterness. It tasted like home.